Hi Dave.
Hello.
Nice to see you.
Yeah, good to see you
How
again.
you doing?
Oh, well, thanks.
Good.
Thanks for coming down.
No, it's my pleasure.
It's brilliant. This must have been a few months since we last met.
Hi Dale, nice to see you again. We're in the middle of an election period at the moment, and I just wondered what your vision of the next government's role was in relation to renewable energy, all the emerging technologies that are coming, and how important that is in this election.
To me, is perhaps the most important issue of the whole election. The issue of energy and climate change, because they're linked. The pursuit of renewable energy and the green economy, I just think they're the most important things. I don't think they've had enough airtime during the election so far, and we chose to get involved in the election really to try and make these more prominent, to get people thinking about where energy is going to come from and to understand the potential that the green economy has for our country. You know, the idea that we could run the whole country from renewable energy is not just a pipe dream, it's absolutely possible, and the benefits to us would be quite enormous as a country.
Because it is interesting so far in the political debates that have been going on, the topic of renewable energies, of energy independence, of climate change has not really been very high on the agenda.
No, exactly. It's like in your own house, isn't it? If you've got your own solar panels, for example, you start to spend less money on electricity, you've got less money leaving your house every year. It's just the same for our country, except it's tens of billions of pounds that we're literally just burning every year. We might as well be throwing it into a furnace, because that's what's happening to it. And we could make that energy, as you say, create the jobs. There was a study just a few weeks ago, a European study, that said that we would save £1 billion in health costs if we cleaned up the atmosphere and stopped burning fossil fuels. So there are these other kind of unseen benefits that we would have if we stopped relying on fossil fuels.
Now Dale, I know you love football, and I know that Forest Green Rovers, the local football team here, have been, you're very involved with that, but I'm really intrigued of the connection between renewable energy, solar panels, electric cars, and football. It's not an automatic connection that you make.
We could deploy all of our thinking and ideas in energy, transport and food, show them to a football, and then ultimately a larger sporting audience. That was the idea, just to green up a football club and use it as a platform to get the message to a place where it probably wasn't really getting.
Clearly it's not something that football fans are normally talking about, one assumes.
Yeah.
I mean, have they responded positively or negatively?
We've had both.
Right.
We've had, there's a load of rubbish and some, let's say some anger when we took red meat off the menu a little while ago. Now, it's a long time ago now. And there was lots of skepticism for sure, and people say, oh, but this is football, this is how we've always done it. There was a bit of that going on, and I'm not a fan of tradition in that respect. That things should be done the same way just because they always have. And our message to the fans was on the food front, for example, look, don't come to a football game once every 2 weeks and eat what you always eat. Come and try something new. And so we brought a whole load of new food to the club. Fast forward a few years to where we are now, and our fans are really on board.
So we're in the middle of an election period at the moment, and there does seem to be a distinct lack of attention to the environment, to the energy setup in this country. I mean, have you got any ideas as to why that's happening and what the reasons behind it are?
In the run-up to this election, we could see a very stark choice. The Conservatives talking about shutting down onshore wind, having already done enormous damage to it, and the solar industry. I believe they'll shut down the renewables industry if they get re-elected. And I don't think they're serious about climate change, because you can't be if you're going to shut down your renewable energy industry. And on the other hand, you've got Labour Party that's serious about both. And so that, for the first time ever, was a real stark choice on the issue that we spend our lives pursuing, the issue of the environment and sustainability, which is why we chose to get involved. So I'd like to see more of that in the election, but more than anything else, I'd like to see a leaders debate, and I think that would be the most useful thing for all of us in the country to see, so that we could make a better judgment about the qualities of the two people that are pitching to lead the country.
So I think one of the biggest things that's changed in our lifetime since we were kids is the growing gap between most people and the poor and the super rich, and that's really been a big change. So I mean, how important do you think it is to try and reduce that gap and have a little bit more fairness in our society?
The rise of things like 0 hours contracts, which are just mushrooming under this government. I think that's a real abuse of people. The bedroom tax, which I consider just to be spiteful and petty, actually. The railing against even the idea of a mansion tax. I can't balance those two things. Who is better able to pay a tax, somebody with a mansion or somebody with a bedroom? The tax breaks for people at the top, the rules on non-doms, for example. If you're rich enough, you get to choose your own tax rules. You get to choose what you pay. Everybody else, pays what they have to pay. I think it's part of the ideology of the Conservative Party that if a few people do very well, then that will lift everybody. There will be a trickle down, and the country's better off. I think it's a failed ideology, and I think Labour are quite right that everybody needs to do well. And austerity has fallen much harder on the less well off among us than it has on the better off among us, and all of the statistics back that up. I think that's just wrong, and it's just fundamentally wrong, and I can't get past that.
Now, I think for the people who were surprised by your initial announcement about your donation to the Labour Party, would probably be more surprised by your donation to the Lib Dems. I was certainly surprised.
It really started with Ed Davey. I had a meeting with Ed Davey, and he's very committed to the Green cause. I think he'd been a decent energy secretary anyway. He'd fought his corner rather well in an unfortunate coalition, and I thought I would help him get re-elected. So we gave some money to him for his campaign, and I met with the campaign team at Lib Dem HQ. And they showed me that 40 of the 50 seats that they were fighting to hold were actually Lib Dem Tory marginals, where they're the only party that could actually beat the Tories. So in football terms, it's a bit of a six-pointer. Every extra Lib Dem in Parliament is one less Tory, for example. And so for tactical reasons, I thought it was important to give the guys a little bit of help. I mean, of the three major parties, they're the least well-funded, for sure. But they're not all bad. They're a progressive party, big on green issues and climate change. So I mean they're worthy of some support.
So Dale, if you were given the opportunity with whatever new government we have to make one suggestion to them about the best way forward, what would that suggestion be?
Well, we are pulling together a manifesto at the moment. We hope to launch it next week, and really it's going to contain a whole bunch of suggestions for the things that we think need doing to get it to this place where we think we need to be, which is powered by renewable energy, electric cars on the road, all that kind of stuff. Perhaps the one big idea in there is that we should have a Ministry of Carbon, whose job is to focus on carbon emissions from the energy, transport and food sectors, and to take proper control of that, because we need to focus our minds, I believe, on not peak oil but peak carbon. We need to fix ourselves on that target of stopping carbon rising above a certain point. And I think we need a minister responsible for that.
A Minister of Carbon, I like that. I'd apply for that job. Oh, thanks very much for your time, Dale. It's been great talking to you again. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Robert.